All right, so tonight we're going to talk about a Go Kit. It's an important time of year for this area, as all of you know. You had Ray and Daisy, I think, last Tech Night talking about hurricanes, and we have Field Day coming up. You've got all kind of activities. For me, the idea behind buying this kit, which is available DX Engineering, I get nothing out of that, but it was from DX Engineering, uh, was to try to consolidate, have things all together. And I bought this probably, I don't know, probably 3 years ago. And to look at the state of technology, for example, like the ICOM 705, where you can put it in a backpack and go. So I'm trying to give you a balanced approach to this. But before I really get into this, let me just say I want to thank Bruce. You know, this guy thinks long term. He contacted me before the holidays last year and kind of, you know, hey, what's on your calendar in May? And I'm like, I know. Okay, good. Could you put something down on there to do a tech night? So I was like, all right. So it was called Operation Hook a Brother Up. Things got to the point where I had some issues so bad, I actually called the N4 GXX in. So that kind of tells you something. No, seriously, I wanted. Oh, is he leaving? Oh, so soon. Yeah. So anyway, he came over, and you know, it's one of the things when I look around the room at all of us here. It's important. There's a lot of people that's doing things. They want to do things. They just don't know how. So I want to thank Steve. Coming over and helping me. We had some Anderson power pole issues and a couple other things going through some stuff. So I give him a hard time, well, because he deserves it. But actually, I want to tell him thank you for for the help that you had given to me to get this up and running. Uh, First of all, this is a 6U, 6UM, I think, is the nomenclature. There's one that's a little bit smaller. The basics of this kit is that it does have two speakers in here. You do have USB. On this side, you have the ability to put antenna connectors, which I think I'm going to go ahead and do, put the 232s on there. That way I can use a jumper cable and have easier access to the jacks. This thing is like a Swiss Army knife. You could put stuff wherever you want it as long as it fits. If somebody has an idea how to take these components and get them to be mounted, I tried the Velcro and that didn't work out too well. So if you have suggestions, have prior experience, that would be a good thing. I'd appreciate it. Um, in this kit, I have a basic power supply. I have a SWR meter, and I have a small mobile radio, Uniform Victor, and then I have a 817 in here. I think the original idea was to be able to take this and be mobile, but the issue, even with just those basic items and the weight of the kit, it gets a little heavy. So I bought one of those two chests, like a hand cart. It has all the different components, but even when you put that on top and you're rolling it, it gets to be a little bit much. So I think it's a transportable item. I don't know if it's a mobile item. So field days coming up, it could be an opportunity to try it out and see how it works, change the configuration in preparation for that. I would have to look at the. It's got a little bit of weight to it because you've got the basic guts in here, the shelves, and then when you add the different components, you don't think they weigh that much, but collectively, it gets up some pretty good weight. I do think there is a use for this because you can put all of these components in, and if you're going to be set up someplace, you pop the covers off, you hook up power. There is the ability to use DC, or if you have a generator out there. Everything is contained, but the important part, and that's why I saw Craig nodding his head about strapping things down, is you want to make sure all of those components are put in a position and secured. The worst thing is you go someplace and you find it's been bounced around, and you find out the hard way maybe something's not working. I think that one of the considerations about what you put in is maybe task oriented. Okay, what are you going to do? Are you going out doing digital, or are you going to do maybe just some kind of a relay like we did out there with folks running through the woods at night a couple of years back? Or are you going to be doing HF? So you would probably want to put items in there, but not permanently mount them down. So when you decide what you're going to do, you want to take it out. You could set it up and have the appropriate gear in there. So nothing permanent, I would say. That's my opinion. Just configure it to what it is that you're going to be doing. Um, but I think the versatility is there. I mean, honestly, it's $375 for that kit, and then you add all the components in, so it's not exactly cheap. And there may be other ways to do it. Maybe other ways to put components into something else and at a lower price point. Um, then again, if you buy I compare a 705. If you buy that with a backpack and maybe some other pieces, parts, I mean, it gets up there. You're getting up towards $2,000 depending on what you're doing. So if you go with the full Monty, so those are some considerations. How often are you going to use it? What's the purpose? In this configuration, obviously, it's a QRP rig in there with a uniform Invicta radio. So, all right. Yes. That kit, well, just like I said, just starting off, the actual case is $375, but by the time you put the radios that you want in there, I mean, it can add up. As I tell people with ham radio, it's about as much as your wallet or your wife will let you get away with. So, yeah. So, I'm kind of ways to do it. And you had a question. I didn't notice, are your shells slit for ventilation? Yeah, there is some spacing around. These are actually solid shells, but they have openings on the side. So I mean, that might be a consideration. Well, there's a couple of companies that make them, their boxes that look almost identical to that, and their shells are slit for ventilation. Right. You can take wire ties. Yeah. And go through there, and they're real close together. So no matter what size the equipment is, you can mount it in there, take a couple up, that goes the front one back, and just really tie them down there, and you can turn it upside down or whatever you want to. And they won't fall out. Yeah, I am opposed to drilling. It's like your automobile, drilling a hole in something. It gives me the willies, So that's why with this thing, with a solid shelf, I was thinking, well, okay, do I drill holes to maybe make that happen? And I'm like, do I want to do that? So what I was actually thinking is, if there's some kind of strapping, release the shelf, pull it out, and then put some kind of strap in a hole and then slide it back in. What type of material do you use that doesn't mar the finish on the items? What kind of Velcro do you use? Well, this was the tape. And so you adhere one and then. I understand what you're saying, but there's more than one type of that. Mm-hmm. And some of the cheapest product that you can buy is some of the best stuff you can get. And it's white instead of black. Okay. And it's called hook and loop. Okay. Instead of called Velcro. And it's made of the same company, but it's a little bit stronger. Okay. And I've seen one of those cases like you got right there with packed full of equipment, and you've got to really just really snatch it to break them loose. Right. And it comes in the script about inch and a quarter or something like that, 2 inches or whatever. Okay. I'll certainly look for it. Right. Again, I don't want to do anything that would damage the equipment or mar it. Keep it looking in almost new condition. I mean, that's just me. Some people don't care. I mean, they throw it in there and they put stuff on it. And you're like, what happened here? Oh, I strapped it down. Okay. I would like to just get out there and use it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, probably for all of you guys in here is the time that you can devote to the hobby. It is always a challenge. At least, it seems like something's always coming up on the calendar. But I just wanted to have something when I'm at home. It could sit on the desk, and I can just use it, and then adjust it as time goes on with it. Really, it's your imagination, I think, that goes into something like this, and especially for me, I think about hurricane season. Well, what if you have to go someplace? One of the initial thoughts I had was with the RV, but that's not an RV kind of box. I think it's you probably end up with a handy talkie, or you would have maybe some other setup. This is, like I said, this is more a transportable kind of thing. I don't know. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, Craig.
Walton County areas, which I'm a member of, we're building 6 of those with data boxes.
Mm-hmm.
We have been using some heavy-duty nylon zip ties,
Okay.
and we do have some heavy-duty hook and loop fasteners that if I'm lying on dying, my hand raised to heaven, you've got to snatch that thing off. It stays put.
Okay.
The shelves that we're utilizing, they've got slots
Along the edge.
right well across the shelf. There's slots machined in where you can pass the hook, the zip tie through, put the receiver in on one corner, cinch that strap up. Hook and loop, we use those mainly for, I'm messaging you a couple of pictures
Okay.
of the project. We got a Signal Link, rig blaster, a rig runner, a power distribution center, FT 891, and ID 880 D-Star.
That's all in one box.
It's all about.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
There it is right there, but I'm sending that to you.
Okay.
That's the front side. There's the back side.
Mm-hmm.
There's your little rig blaster and rig runner set right there.
Just
But,
put it in front of the camera so they can see.
Yeah. I don't know if you could see that too well.
Yeah, back. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the back side. That's the back side of the box there, and there's the front side. I'm gonna try to open that up where.
Get it closer. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now those, it looks like that shelf is perforated, right? It's got holes in it. Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, because this thing doesn't have that. These are solid shelves. Yeah, and you could buy a shelf.
They've got wheels on them. You can easily transport them around.
Okay. Yeah, because that is a gator box as well.
We have one question from the
Yeah.
field about the cover. Can you talk about the cover and maybe just show how it attaches?
Oh yeah, you've got the clamshell. Let me reach that. I don't. Yeah, I don't want to pull this thing. Okay, so it's just a simple clamshell with the 2 screws on each side. So when you go, you transport this item. Nothing can get in there. These are handles here, so you could pick it up. I don't know if you can see in Zoom land, but this light is on over here, as well as the equipment is lit up in there. The other clamshell has a little bit of zippered storage, so you can put items, the microphone, maybe a manual, notebook, whatever you want to do. You can put inside of there. And when you get to your location, again, like I said, I'm going to take these plastic spacers out, and I'm going to get jumpers and have that, so it's already labeled, and you could just have those set up. So when you get there, set up your antenna, boom, you're in business, and get going. So you got another question?
Yeah. Someone wants to know the components you have installed.
Okay, so this is the 817, a Yaesu QRP rig. Then this is the antenna tuner for that. This is a TYT VHF UHF radio. This is the Mighty Fine Junk dummy load watt meter. And then this is just a standard Chinese power supply. So putting out about 14 volts. Yes, it is. And up front, you see the fuses. So if something goes out, it's easy access to get to the fuses. If you need to power something up with an Anderson power pole, there's connections. There's a couple of USB here. If you want to plug your the speaker into the radio, you can then put your headset right here. There's a cigarette lighter adapter on it. And what is this one here? DC power output. So you could adjust that switch down there. So there's a lot of flexibility that's in the kit, and you can really configure this, and you have your ham station in a box. And that's the whole idea. I mean, we talked about hurricane season when I first started with this discussion, and the whole idea is you look around and you're like, say, well, wait a minute, where's my pieces parts? If you have something that's organized, we talk about preparation as we get into these summer months. We've already had 2 systems. I always think, well, what if I had to grab stuff and go? Well, if it's all together, it's nicely located. I don't have to guess. I'm ready for prime time if I had to do something. And then you always have your handy talkie. So I mean, that's why I kind of wonder if the VHF UHF radio, how valuable that is versus maybe put the 991A inside and just have it for the capability that it presents. And it would pretty much fill that bottom shelf. Might have just a tad bit of space left over. But it eliminates some of the other components that maybe is in here. Yeah, Mike.
Alex, if you want to connect the battery to that thing, power, is there a connection to that?
Yeah, there is the power for the box. So either you plug it in to the power supply or you can plug it into the battery. So I have a LiPo battery in there. So if I disconnected from the outlet, then I could go ahead and hook up the LiPo and use it. It's in there. It's sitting in the back here. Yeah. So if you want to run with a battery, especially with a QRP radio, get some solar panels, have your controller, and just, depending on how much operating you're going to do, you probably could do pretty well, especially as bright as it's been, keeping a charge as you're just monitoring. Now, if you're doing a lot of transmitting, then might not be as long.
Good, because you think a QRP HF radio is enough for income?
No, I think that's why I was thinking about changing this out, because then I would have, especially if I have access to a power supply, either plug in a wall or a generator, then you might as well put, I think, a regular size radio, either, the 7300 or 991A. Those are very versatile rigs. And when you're concerned about space, you're concerned about weight, if you can eliminate some items, which is you get a full size rig in there, that's what I'm leaning towards. But again, just like anything else, to each his own. What are you going to do with it? Yeah, Rob.
Your thoughts, anyone's thoughts on a go-to radio like this? What are we looking at for using for a quick all-band antenna, or do we just if you want to get on the air for MCOM, you just stick with 20 or 40? You've got this nice little kit.
Right.
Do you want 7 boxes of parts to go with you? So what would you pair this thing with to get out there?
Well, I have portable antennas. So again, what am I going to be doing? I can, those things have a strap, so I can throw it on the shoulder, grab whatever else and go, and then load this up. And within just a few minutes, this could be up and running, connected to your power supply. Again, that's where the 232 is on the front, where you just connect your cables, and then you could run it out. I don't like one-trick ponies. So with this thing, I mean, if you have an end fed, you want to throw it over something that's high enough and get out there, you could do that. Or if you want to do a wire, just have the ability to tune that antenna to be able to get to the different bands that you would like to get to. So if you go out in the day and then it goes in the night, maybe you start at one of the higher bands and then work your way down. So I don't know, that's one of those maybe opinion kind of things. I mean, that's my opinion. If anybody else has something, by all means, what do you think?
I was just going to say there's dipoles that have a lot of the bands
Right
on them, and you can use one of those in an inverted V configuration where you just have to have the one pole in the center and then the 2 ends,
Mm-hmm.
And my dad used one of those. It was made by W9IMN. Actually, that had resonators in it, but they're just coils. And you can make something like that for multiple bands and use it either in dipole configuration or inverted V. And they work fantastic. Dad had good luck with that thing.
I was going to say for HF, in order you don't kiss, as long as you got a reasonable tuner, a G5RV is either a sloper or inverted V mode.
Right. I agree. I have a G5RV, and if you're concerned about getting it up into trees at a high enough level, if you have a pole, that's fine. The other thing is there are kits that you could do a vertical or the dipole that you can configure, and I have one of those antennas to go ahead and do. So I think the idea for me certainly is to take this out and just try the different antennas and see which one works the best. Good receive, good transmit. If you're doing digital, I'd imagine you probably get away with, something pretty simple. If you're going to be doing something more specific, that would have to be. So I saw one thing about you, Craig. One of the kits that DX Engineering had, the customers sent in, it was all set up for satellite. Then they had another kit that was set up for, God knows whatever else. They had different kits, and I'm like, okay. So whatever you want to do, I mean, it's really, really configurable. So, any other questions? Yes.
Just take the question for what it is. You mentioned that the TYT, I've got one of those as well, inexpensive radio,
Right.
$130, something like that. One of the things that radio does that I have not figured out I haven't played with it, is you can set it up as its own repeater. And it's a 50, I think it's a
50 watt
radio. And the question came up at the parking lot for the parking here at the church or for downtown, struggling trying to find clear frequencies. Wondering if something like that, if we had a club repeater on the go,
Right.
the go box, whether we could just pop the sucker open and
extend the range.
downtown or wherever we've got an event. Just if anyone has any thoughts on it.
Where are you going to get the frequency?
I don't know anything about it.
We've got an expert on repeaters here, and would you like to address that one? Hey, Steve. Steve, why don't you go ahead, since you're going to explain this here. I think it'll reach you, huh?
Okay, not to blow it out of the water per se. First of all, you're going to have to be frequency agile because you can't just roll into an area and go up on the air with a repeater. You're going to cause interference to an existing system. The 2 meter spectrum is totally loaded in the Southeast. It is extremely hard to find an open pair within 100 miles. You're talking about a low-lying system. I understand that. But repeaters have high antennas and they usually got really good receivers. Now, frequency agility is not a problem, but if you're going to use a single antenna in close proximity, you're going to have duplexers. You do not have the test equipment nor the time to tune duplexers. I'm sorry? Okay, again, you get front-end overload on the receiver. If I got a receive antenna here and a transmit antenna over here, I'm going to, on 2 meters, we're only 600 kilohertz apart. Well, if you do dual banding, cross banding, you could do cross banding, but some people have a hard enough time programming a radio just for one band, not going from V to U and U to V.
Right. And that's what this radio can do. It's a
dual
band.
The TYT,
Yeah.
Normally you take 2 of the TYT that you're talking about. There's actually an interface kit. It plugs onto the motherboard and it goes through a hole. And on the back side of the case of the TYT, there's a place to mount a 9-pin DB9 back there. That's where all your keying and audio circuits in and out go. And then you got to have a controller to make it work. Because something's got to tell the transmitter, hey, the receiver's got a valid signal. Here's the audio. Now send it and key to radio. So you got to have a rudimentary controller to do that. It can be done, yes, absolutely.
I mean, there have been several people that I've known have had their handhelds and they're using their repeater in their car, but you know, they're not running hundreds of watts and really high end.
Right, both my radios in the car, I can use them as crossband repeaters.
Right.
But then I got to program the radio and I got to know how to program the radio. And they don't publish that. You got to research that. The FCC, for some reason, won't let them publish how to do that.
Crossband meaning in VHF out UHF or vice versa? Is that what that means?
Pardon?
In UHF out VHF or vice versa?
Yep. Yeah.
I didn't mean to hijack the sound.
No, this is a tech night. I'm learning
So
as
the
we go.
selectivity isn't good enough?
That's my 2 cents worth.
All right, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I mean, no, this is not a hijack. I think one of the biggest problems we have as a community sometimes is we don't want to admit we don't know something. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to learn just like you guys. All right, yeah, Craig.
That's one of those Saturday impromptu field day exercises.
Yeah.
So you gotta get up there, just give it a shot.
Yeah.
See what works.
Okay.
Welcome to Mount Ranch Ankle racing. We had,
Yeah.
I run crossband repeat. I had the radio in the car and the HT on the table watching them go by, and it worked great.
Yeah.
So, and even back to the 3.6 machine, I run crossband repeat. Bruce was in on that with us.
Okay. We have some skills. All right. So I don't know if that answers your question. At least it addresses. Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything? Yeah, Mike.
Posts on there for 12 volts coming in, or is it just wires?
Do what now?
Do you have posts to connect 12 volts coming in?
Well, all of the connectors on the back are Anderson power poles. And so I can either connect from the power supply to the main line for the power in, or I take the LiPo and I just plug into it and get the voltage there. So yeah, I had a question, Mike.
Do you use that box as your primary station at home?
No, I don't. I have the radio over there, but you know, you if you're limited on space like I am, it's like, well, I can't have all of this here and all of that there. So that's why I think there's some consolidation, and put that on a desk with those pieces. And then if something happens, I'll put the clamshells and go. And then I've got the familiarity with the equipment that's inside. So it's not I get somewhere and it's like a helmet fire trying to figure out what I have in there. You know.
If it sits in pause for 6 months and you go, oh, did it still work?
Yeah.
Or do you use it on repeat?
Yeah. My goal is to use this on a routine basis. I want to put it on the desk. I want to use it. It might help me to configure it. You know, what am I really doing and how often am I doing it type thing? And then have it set up. I understand everything's in it. I've had my frequencies put into the memory. I'm good to go. And then when I go someplace, I'd have this kit, whatever power I'm going to use, a notebook computer. I can, again, that clamshell on the chair has a little storage. I could put something in here and travel wherever I'm going. And when I get there, as simple as possible, antenna on the shoulder. I can go out and put the kit down, put the antenna. I've got the computer. I go back and get and then set up and whatever. If I'm using a generator or if I'm plugging into something else, I'm using solar panels with LiPo. You know, what is it that how do I want to configure it and just minimize it? Because you go out someplace and we do this for field day every time. What do you bring and how do you set it up? How long does that take? And meanwhile, like John Wayne would say, you're burning daylight. You know, you want to just get there, get set up, and get going. Yes.
How much current are you actually drawing everything on?
That's a good question. I haven't set up the little controller, so I don't know right off the top of my head. But
Probably 14 amps and high power, something like that.
yeah, what Dave said. All right. Anybody else? Patty, you have been quite quiet, which is atypical. Wow. Yeah, Craig.
Just as a small item, it's not that big a deal. One thing we also did on the front panel, we put in a little, like a manifest pack that we adhered to the front panel, and we put our manuals in there. So that's something to consider if you want to get an organized number of kits for the club. That's something you can consider doing.
Yeah. Well, I bought one of those little spiral things. If I had, yeah, 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 those are good. Yeah, yeah, because I mean, stuff happens. If you, again, that's why use it and get familiar with it and set it up right. And then when you go there, hopefully you minimize those things. But there's going to be questions. Something changes, and you got to be able to change to it.
I think what we actually used was the expanded files, the little vinyl.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the accordion files. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
So at the Ham Fest, the last Fort Walton Beach Ham Fest, they had a family with a couple girls
Yep.
that designed those things.
The YouTube ladies. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
one
Yeah, our
girl-
sisters. Yeah.
The one girl had gotten her extra class license when she was like 7 or something. She was the youngest one in the country ever. And that family was pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
If you got the money, they make them, they build them, with the equipment in them and sell them.
Yeah. Well,
And they were good quality.
yeah, they were good quality, but I tell you what, I mean, that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was north of $2,000 for each of those kits.
The company down in Czechoslovakia, they're right at $3,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not probably some other pieces, parts that you would still need.
They
Yeah.
had 7300s in some of them,
Yeah, you could customize.
some higher end radios,
Yeah.
as I remember.
I think, one of the things I just think about, and I go back to this point, is when I bought this, and honestly, this thing sat in my house for a bit before putting it into operation there with Steve's help. How fast things are changing. I don't think we understand how fast technology is evolving. And that's why sometimes it pays to be a procrastinator, because by the time you start to, you never thought it was a good reason to be a procrastinator. But there are times when equipment is evolving, it's getting smaller, it's getting more capable. Now, the corollary to that, I guess, is if you buy something and it breaks, well, now you got a bunch of other stuff, so that's why sometimes it's good to have different components. But the miniaturization and the complexity of some of these items, and then you can use your computer to control them and do different things. I mean, it's pretty neat. You had a question in the back?
I just would say, the one thing I considered, I thought out at Hamfest, they had some sort of light strip,
Yeah.
low power LEDs. One of the things I found is that a lot of times I have to go hunt for light.
Mm-hmm.
The light go on and turn on the big light.
Yeah, there's a light on this one. I don't know if you could tell. Yeah, there's a light right here. Yeah. And it's really good. It casts the light down. It's not like, if you're doing something in the evening at night and you lose your night vision because the light's up in your face, or just the fatigue. Yeah, the fatigue of having lights in your face. So that one does a pretty good job, in addition to the actual radios having lights. It's dimmable. So it has a rheostat on it, so you can adjust that. It was all part of it. Yeah, you pay $375 to give you a light free. Yeah.
Well, you paid $375 for the light.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Oh, I didn't realize it was a government contract. Okay.
So they had boxes of what's the name of that? It's all tools and
Harbor Freight.
freight. Yeah, for much less expensive than we done.
Well, Skycraft has got some too.
What?
Mail order from them,
Skycraft?
yes.
I hadn't heard of those.
They're down in Orlando.
Okay.
We was there Saturday.
You bought two of them? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Their stuff
I
used to,
wish.
used to be highly overpriced. I don't know if it's still, but it was used to be.
Are they in the same place or did they move? I thought they were going.
Winter Park on Fairbanks.
The Skycraft is still, in the same place.
Okay.
They're talking about it, but I guess they've been talking about moving for 5 years. They haven't made it yet. So.
You can't rush those things.
The boxes that Dave is referring to, if I'm not mistaken, those are Apache boxes.
Yeah.
So well, I'll ask you guys a question. You sound like you've got several boxes you're building. What do you think is a better box on the market? I mean, this thing I think is very capable. I think it'll be around for quite a while.
I like the way you got that set up and the side panels that
Right.
you put switches on.
Mm-hmm.
Our gator boxes don't have that. What's the brand on that box?
This is the iPortable Pro 2.
And we're using gator boxes.
Yeah, this is a Gator box. It's just they put those inside those rack mounts. I mean, if you buy the empty box, I mean, these guys just put the stuff in here. You get the little, right behind you here, you have the little circuit, the brains of it. But otherwise, it's just, you've got this panel screwed in on both sides with the shelf mated to that.
And what we did was on the upper right-hand corner, we got the power switches with USB and also with Anderson power poles. A couple Anderson power poles from PowerWorks that we mounted up in the upper right-hand corner there.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have an Anderson power pole strip right down the middle.
Yeah, that's why I actually am waiting on a West Mountain, the power strip, because this thing has the power in, it has a circuit 1, circuit 2, and if you have other components, you can run out of connectivity, for power purposes. So when we were working on this thing the other day, I ordered one. Steve mentioned it to me, and I said, yeah, I need to have a little bit more, so you can have the West Mountain mounted in there and be able to plug other components. Again, it's going back to how much is your power consumption.
Great setup.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Have you or anybody looked at, I think it's West Mountain makes as a module that goes with their power strip, it's got the binding post and the Anderson plug.
Yeah.
And it looks at what's coming in, like you're running solar or battery or line, and it automatically will, you can vote whatever you got, it's a serviceable, whatever.
Right.
It automatically switches to the next input.
I don't have a West Mountain product. I have two others that monitors that. If I'm plugged into all, I'm probably not going to really think too much about it. But if I'm doing battery or solar, yeah, certainly I want to know what's going on. Or that's a good idea if you have multiple power supplies. You can. Okay.
Like solar about the lower level.
Right.
Battery with the line or something like that.
Yeah.
USB or QRZ on Northwest, something I just thought that's a pretty handy thing to have. So you don't have to worry about where your power source is coming from.
Yeah. I saw somebody else. Mike, was it you?
The way you got your box set up there, you can run simultaneous VHF and HF.
Right.
And you mentioned using the 991A, which has that all in one box, but only one or.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's a limb fact.
My question was for Bruce, because he's got some experience with the optical panel sitting on it. And did you have a situation where one guy had been monitoring VHF and HF at the same time, or was it segregated?
Yeah, you got to remember, we only had two of us, and we ended up with like 5 radios.
Oh, right.
5 VHF radios.
Okay.
And then HF. So yeah, we were listening to kind of everything and watching dial, watching the receive LED to go on. But you learn to kind of just flow with it. Your ears, Steve was talking a couple of years ago about the brain can handle like 4 channels at one time if you do everything just right.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's not way to figure out whether you want to equip a box with a radio that is either or.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If,
I like the 991.
yeah.
I don't know if it fits with what you're trying to do.
Well, I bought a 991A because of you. That was the reason why I bought that rig. Because field day overall, when we had that lot, and I was there with you. So that, yeah, yeah. One of the things I was just thinking about, for you, Bruce, when you deploy it, how would this serve you when you went to hurricane response?
It would have helped a lot because I have just a bunch of pieces and a bunch of boxes that I had plastic tubs, and it would have been nice to have, and it would have saved time.
So you got a birthday or a Christmas coming up? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put. I'm sorry.
Actually, birthday's in a couple of weeks.
Oh wow, man. Wow.
No, that would have been much nicer.
I might need an escort out of here, Craig. Yeah. I bruise easily. I just don't want to get hurt too bad. No, I'm thinking it's probably 30 pounds thereabout. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying it's transportable, not portable. Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking about you when you went out and did the hurricane response. If everything's there, you pop off covers, power, antennas, ground, and giddy up. Let's go. So.
Because I put everything in cardboard boxes because I didn't know what I was going to end up with. So
right.
You got the unit, and then you got the boxes and the packing, and just taking up space in my little car.
So,
Yeah.
Bruce, what antenna turned out to be the most useful for HF?
We use a G5 RV.
I don't think they have as much gain as the dipole.
It's not that Porter Tower has it.
Yeah, true.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah. So I was just going to mention, I was just looking for, I think it's a SAMLEX, SAMLEX, switching power supply, and it has 2 meters on it, and they're one for current, one for voltage. The thing about that switcher, if you look at the reviews and ratings, it's one of the quietest switchers. So when you have switching power supplies, and I used to design them for a living many years ago, in close proximity with radios and so on, it's important that if it's a small condensed switcher power supply, that it be clean with the appropriate filters and so on. And I think the SAMLEX was the one that had the best reviews. So I got one. It's not my favorite to look at, but it performs well. It's clean.
Yeah. Craig?
It's funny that we just discussed the HF antennas, but John and I were talking about a setup that DX Engineering will help you build. It's near vertical incident skywave, which I'm a big fan of. But the one near vertical incident skywave that I've been looking at and going to be in the process of building. Simple to change out a couple of reflective and radiating wires that you can pre-cut for frequency and package up and tote around. And it doesn't weigh anymore. I don't think it weighs any more than 15 pounds. You can put that in a little military antenna kit, tote that thing around. It's real simple.
You got a question? I think they're asking what's the width of the box or the internal shelf dimension.
Somebody's got a tape measure?
Yeah, I do.
Look at you.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say something, but I'm already on borrowed time. Well, this shelf, no, it's about 11 and a half. Yeah, both of them, because you have to remember how this is, let's go across here. This is 19 inches across, but then the speaker side, this is 5 inches. And this is what? Almost 3 inches. Yeah, so about 11 and a half. I'll say 11 inches. And thank you, Bruce, for the tape measure.
Don't mind, you send pictures of that to me,
Sure,
front and back,
sure.
I like what you got there.
Yeah, again, I really think I'm gonna take that QRP out and put the 991A in, and then maybe, you can't do everything, so maybe that's where I might have to rely on a handy talkie. If I had to get to a point where I'm doing HF and doing something else, then have the handy talkie if possible, for the other, either simplex, or if I'm trying to do a repeater. I don't know. How do I, where am I going? What am I doing? Those are some thoughts.
You say you can run those, you could possibly run those at the same time?
Yeah.
You gotta run one and we'll run the other.
No, if I have separate antennas and I have sufficient power, I could do it. That's I think is the nicety of it is, if you're probably gonna be monitoring more than anything else on these things. Now, if you're doing digital or something, that's kind of, self-explanatory. But if you're doing something with Uniform or Victor, like you're about to do, yeah. All right. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, the Samlex power supply I'm talking about is the S Sugar Echo Carry -1235 M with meter. That's SEC -1235 M per meter. They're about 135, 140 bucks, but they're 35 amps. It's clean. It doesn't have a lot of conductive emissions, and it's a pretty reliable power supply.
Now, what website are you looking at?
I actually put in part number, I actually remembered the number of the power supply.
Okay.
But it took me about 3 minutes to do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any hands up. You still don't have a question, huh?
No, I have a favor. You can pack it up and give it to your brother for his birthday. I just wondered if when you
I'm a nice guy. I'm just not that nice. Okay.
when you get in the doghouse with your wife, don't you take that with you?
I don't. I have never made my wife mad a single day in our lives.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Maybe a week at a time, but never a single day. Never a single day. Yeah. If I'm lying, somebody else is dying. Okay. All right. All right. I appreciate it, guys.